The Boar Who Challenged a Lion. Deep in the Himalayan mountains, there lived a magnificent lion in a mountain cave. He was the king of the forest, strong, noble, and respected by all. Near a sparkling lake at the foot of the mountain lived a group of wild boars. One boar in particular was stout and proud, always boasting about how brave he was. One afternoon, the lion came down to the lake to drink after his meal. He spotted the boar at the water's edge. Not wanting to frighten the smaller animal, the lion quietly turned and walked away, thinking nothing of it. But the boar saw the lion leave and puffed out his chest with excitement. "Did you see that?" he squealed to his friends. "The mighty lion is afraid of me." Filled with foolish pride, the boar marched right up to the lion's cave the next morning. "I challenge you to a fight," he squealed boldly. "Meet me at the great rock by the lake in 7 days. The lion looked at the boar with amused surprise. He could have ended the fight right there, but he admired the little creature's boldness. "Very well," the lion said calmly. "In 7 days, at the great rock." The moment the boar returned home, his relatives surrounded him in panic. "You challenged the lion," they cried. "Have you lost your mind? He'll crush you with one paw." The boar's bravery suddenly melted away like snow in the sun. His legs began to tremble. An old wise boar stepped forward. "There is one way to save yourself," he said. "Near the hermit's huts, there is a great pile of mud and filth. Roll in it every day for 7 days. When you meet the lion, the smell will be so terrible that he won't come near you." It was a desperate plan, but the frightened boar had no choice. He went to the muddy heap and began rolling in the stinkiest muck he could find. For 7 long days, the boar rolled and wallowed in the foulest muck. By the end, he was caked from snout to tail in dried, crusted filth. The smell was so dreadful that even his own family couldn't stand to be near him. Flies buzzed around him in thick clouds. On the morning of the 7th day, the boar waddled to the great rock by the lake and stood to windward, waiting for the lion. The lion arrived at the great rock, majestic and confident. But the moment the wind carried the boar's stench to his nose, the mighty lion stopped in his tracks. His face twisted in disgust. The smell was so unbearable that his eyes watered and his stomach churned. "I cannot fight something I cannot even approach," the lion declared, backing away. "You win, boar. I would rather lose than cover myself in your filth." And with that, the great lion turned and walked away with dignity. The boar danced and squealed with joy. "I defeated the lion. I am the bravest of all," he cried. But his relatives shook their heads sadly. They knew the truth: the boar hadn't won through strength or courage, but through filth and trickery. And though the boar celebrated, no animal in the forest respected him for it. For it is one thing to avoid defeat, and quite another to earn true victory. The real winner was the lion, who walked away with his honor intact. Moral: don't mistake someone's kindness for weakness. True victory comes from real strength, not tricks. The Jackal Who Got Trapped. Deep in the forests of ancient India, near the great city of Benares, there lived a jackal who was always hungry. Not ordinary hungry, this jackal was the greediest creature in the whole jungle. While other animals ate what they needed and moved on, this jackal always wanted more, more, more. He would gobble up every morsel he found and still lick his lips looking for the next meal. The forest birds would shake their heads and say, "That jackal's belly will be his downfall someday." One scorching summer day, as the jackal wandered through the forest with his rumbling belly, he stumbled upon something enormous. There, in a clearing, lay a huge elephant that had peacefully passed away. The jackal's eyes grew as wide as coconut. "What luck!" he cried, dancing around the enormous creature. "This is the biggest feast I have ever seen. I will eat and eat until I can eat no more." The jackal tried to bite into the elephant's tough hide, but it was as hard as leather. He tried the trunk, too tough. He tried the tusks, even harder. He tried the thick legs, the giant ears, the long tail, but no matter where he nibbled, he could not break through. "Oh no," wailed the jackal. "The greatest feast in the world, and I cannot even take a single bite." He sat down in despair, his tail drooping sadly. But then the clever jackal spotted something, a small soft opening. With a wiggle and a squeeze, the jackal pushed himself right inside the elephant's belly. And oh, what he found! It was like a cave filled with the most delicious food he had ever tasted. "This is paradise," the jackal shouted with glee. He ate and ate until his belly was round as a drum. "Why would I ever leave?" he thought. "I shall live here forever." And so the foolish jackal made himself right at home inside the elephant. Days passed. The scorching summer sun beat down on the forest, hotter and hotter each day. Slowly, without the jackal noticing, the elephant's tough hide began to dry and shrink in the blazing heat, like leather left out in the sun. The opening through which the jackal had squeezed in grew smaller, and smaller, and smaller, until one morning, the jackal woke up to complete darkness. The entrance had sealed shut. "Hello," called the jackal nervously. "Where did the light go?" The jackal was trapped. He ran this way and that, bumping into the walls of his leathery prison. He scratched and clawed and pushed, but the dried hide was as hard as stone. "Let me out! Let me out!" he howled. But no one could hear him. For the first time in his life, the greedy jackal wished he had eaten less and left while he still could. His great feast had become his greatest trap. "Oh, if only I had been satisfied with what I had," he cried. The jackal waited in the dark for what felt like forever. Then one afternoon, dark clouds gathered in the sky and rain began to pour. The cool water soaked into the dried elephant hide, and slowly, slowly, it began to soften. A tiny crack of light appeared. The jackal backed up as far as he could, closed his eyes tight, and charged forward with all his might. Whoosh! He burst through the softened opening and tumbled out into the rain, blinking in the glorious sunlight. But when he looked down at himself, he gasped. Every last bit of his fur had been scraped off. He was as smooth and bare as a peeled mango. The jackal stood in the rain, hairless and humbled, and made a solemn promise to himself. "Never again," he declared. "Not again, and never again will I let my greed trap me. I will eat what I need and be grateful for every meal." The forest birds chirped and sang, as if to say, "He has finally learned." And from that day on, the jackal kept his promise. He ate modestly, shared with others, and whenever he passed an elephant in the forest, he would quickly look away and whisper to himself, "Be content with what you have. Be content." Moral: greed traps those who cannot control their desires. Be content with enough, and you will always be free. The Jackal and the Crystal Cave. In the mountains of ancient India, on a shimmering silver hill, there was a remarkable cave made entirely of crystal. Its walls were so perfectly clear and transparent that anyone inside could be seen as if they were sitting in thin air. A scrawny, cunning jackal had claimed this crystal cave as his home, and he thought himself very clever indeed. Not far from the silver hill, at the edge of a great forest, lived a family of noble lions. There were 5 brave brothers and their graceful sister. Each day, the brothers would go out to hunt, leaving their sister safely in their den. The eldest brother was the wisest of them all, known throughout the forest for his calm and thoughtful nature. One day, while the brothers were away hunting, the jackal crept up to the lioness's den. Puffing out his thin chest, he declared, "O beautiful lioness, you and I are the same, we are both 4-footed creatures. Surely we should be friends." The lioness looked at the scrawny jackal with dignified calm. "A jackal and a lion are not equals," she said firmly. "Go back to where you belong." Embarrassed and angry, the jackal slunk back to his crystal cave. When the brothers returned, the lioness told them about the rude jackal. The youngest brother growled, "I'll teach that arrogant little jackal a lesson." He raced to the silver hill and spotted the jackal sitting inside his cave, appearing to float in thin air. Without thinking, the lion charged and crash. He slammed headfirst into the invisible crystal wall and tumbled backward, dazed and bewildered. One after another, the other brothers tried the same approach. Each saw the jackal sitting calmly, seemingly unprotected, and each charged with all their might. But every time, they crashed into the invisible wall and bounced back, bruised and confused. The jackal laughed and laughed from inside his crystal fortress, feeling quite invincible. When the eldest brother returned home, he found his younger brothers nursing their bumps and bruises. "The jackal floats in the sky," they told him. "We cannot reach him." The eldest lion listened thoughtfully, stroking his magnificent mane. "A jackal floating in the air. "That makes no sense," he said quietly. "There must be something we are not seeing." The eldest brother went to the silver hill and observed carefully. Instead of charging, he watched how the sunlight glinted and sparkled around the jackal. "Aha!" he exclaimed. "He is not floating, he sits inside a cave of crystal. The walls are invisible but solid." Then the great lion took a deep breath and let out 3 thunderous roars that shook the mountains and echoed across the valleys. The sound was so powerful that even the heavens trembled. Inside the crystal cave, the jackal had nowhere to hide from the deafening roars. The sound bounced off the crystal walls, growing louder and louder until the terrified jackal couldn't bear it any longer. He scrambled out of the cave and ran as fast as his legs could carry him, never to return. The eldest brother turned to his family and smiled. "Remember, always think before you act. Wisdom can solve what brute strength alone cannot." Moral: think before you act. Wisdom succeeds where strength alone cannot.